I was the second unit on the campus. My unit. I had 80 soldiers, I think. Anyway, I had a couple of boys hurt, not seriously, but I didn't have a headlight left in my Jeeps and deuce and a half trucks, or windshield. Every one of them was broken out.
And by then, it was either already dark or it was getting dark, I think.
No, by then it was dark.
It was dark.
And the tear gas was so thick, we put tear gas mask on down at the armory before we came out here.
I see.
That particular night when the guns and the tear gas and all of that, because see, we could smell tear gas because see, like so we were living right across from campus, and so it wasn't, everybody was up trying to take care of their families, and they were calling around to see what everybody say.
If you weren't there, if you're not a witness to what happened, then you can't always believe what you read here.
And even if you were a witness, different witnesses saw different things and perceived it differently. And I remember somebody talking about Chucky Faulkner, whose arm had been broken in the melee.
But Chucky, they had thrown, have I told you this? They had thrown some of that reinforcing steel, which is iron bars, when they were building the biology building. Chucky was out front, he had a foghorn, and he was trying to calm whoever the riders were. Most of them were outsiders. And he, anyway, they started throwing things at him, and somebody threw a piece of that steel reinforcing rod and hit his hand right there, a bone right here. And it broke his arm, and he was in Cullinan Hospital when I came out here.
And I think they were maybe a little overwhelmed with the reception that they received, the hostility of it. And this was even before General Walker got here, who was one that stirred up the problems that didn't already exist.
Former Major General Edwin Walker, who came here from his home in Texas, is put under arrest and held in high bail on charges of inciting insurrection.
Walker was happy to come in here and do what he could to make sure that things did happen that way, but you get different people telling different parts of this story over the years, and you're going to get entirely different impression depending who you're listening to and their interpretation at the time.
Now, lots of people here in the city of Oxford probably wasn't involved in all of that riot. You had people from different towns in Mississippi, and you had people from different states driving in.
And Howard Duval, we mentioned Howard the last time we were talking.
But we can't help but mention Howard.
Howard turned it back everywhere he could. They said, which way to the campus? And of course, all these people were not from here. That's the main thing, is most of the people that stirred up the trouble were not from here. They weren't our people.
Yeah.
And so Howard said, it's that way. You just go right back where you go back and would take him to Tupelo, or you go back that way.
He turned them into the National Guard down at the bottom of the hill.
He was sending them anywhere, but don't go up to the Grove.
And then we understood that some of the people that were driving into Oxford, they wanted to do harm to the black because, see, they was looking for the black community in this town. You see, black was living kind of all over, and they really they just couldn't figure out where we all lived. And about that time, the truth was here, and so they, but it was a rough time. But everybody was afraid, and you had to be afraid because you never know what was going on.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Must have been afraid.
It was a fair time.
Not to do anything.
Much of this film record was destroyed when our cameraman, Gordon Yoder, was attacked. But he did salvage pictures of Governor Ross Barnett at the scene. The governor fought the court order long and bitterly before modifying his stand, saying Mississippi was overpowered by the federal government.
It's about, I've been there maybe 30 minutes. Got in position and had my men lined up and down on the ground. And I looked up, down, I was on the north side of the Lyceum. They changed it up since then, but, and I looked down and somebody was walking toward us, just one person. And I kept looking at him, and I finally recognized him. He got close enough. It was George Street.
Oh, of course.
And when I went up to him, I said, George, this is Billy Ross. And he just hugged my neck. He was so glad to see somebody that wasn't hostile.
Nearly 6,000 troops patrol Oxford to maintain order, and arrests mount to more than 200 as smaller disturbances erupt the next day.
There was a car parked, and I looked at it, and finally I figured out it was a car from Louisiana who was a reporter for a radio station or something. And I could see some other vehicles coming with my trucks behind me. And I told my driver, I said, just hit the car and knock it off the road. And he did. But I didn't say anything about that for a long time. I didn't admit that I'd done that.
President Kennedy appealed to the students and to the people of the state to comply peacefully with the law and bring the crisis to an end, as relative calm settled on the town in the greatest crisis the South has faced since the Civil War.
It was bad.